Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today, our group will be present to you about our case, which is Tenaga Nasional Berhad vs Syarikat Bekalan Air Selangor and other. So my name is Ahmad Afil Zamir Ali and my partner is Aiman Faris bin Muhammad Azharuddin. Moving on to the next slide. In this presentation, we will discuss about the introduction, summary of fact, the issue that raised in the case, judgment of the court, comment and analysis, and conclusion. So first of all, we need to know the area of law that discussed in the case, which is law of tort. The law of tort divided into two, which is negligent and non-deligible duty. Next, the importance of the case. The importance of the case that we found out is this case will become the judicial precedent. Judicial precedent is one of source of law where past decision create law for judge to refer back for guidance in the future case. For example, in this case, the doctrine of negligent and non-deligible duty will become a guidance for the future judge to make a decision. So firstly, negligent. So what does it mean by negligent? Negligent generally means that damage suffered as a result of another person's careless action or inaction may give rise to the thought of negligence. The thought of negligence requires proof to specific element before the thought is established despite carelessness in the part of defendant and injury or damage sustained by plaintiff. Furthermore, in order to prove negligence, there are three essential elements that have to be proved, which is duty of care, breach of duty, and damage suffered by plaintiff. So next, non-deligible duty. Non-deligible duty arises when a party with primary responsibility for the customer or patient is held to have accepted a duty to ensure that any relevant arrangements are carried out in non-negligent manner. For example, a person who have a relationship with another person, such as customer or patient, and have arranged to do a relevant work to be done by a third party may be held principally accountable in negligence for the work done by the third party.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aiman Faris and my metric number is 2111399. So I'm going to talk about the summary of facts. Or material facts. So the appellant, which was TMB, wanted to sue Syarikat Bekalan Air Selangor, which was Syabas, the first respondent, and Syarikat Pembinaan Benua, which was the contractor and the second respondent, for amount approximately 1.4 million ringgit for negligence because damaging one of the electric cables when the excavation activity was held. However, when the trial was held in High Court, Syabas claimed compensation to their insurer, which was Lompat, and Respondent 2. It resulted that the second respondent was fully liable for TMB's claim. It was held that Syabas was not fully liable for the damages, although there was supervision by one of the Syabas staff. As illustrated in Civil Law Act Section 12, contract between Syabas and Respondent 2 was stated whereby the job to locate and ensure there was no damage of the high voltage underground cable and the Syabas pipes was the responsibility that fell under Pembinaan Benua, which was the second respondent. So TMB argued there must be a contractual relationship between both respondents, and Syabas also must be liable for non-deligible duty in order to make sure that the second respondent must do the job carefully, which made this case brought to the appeal court.
Next issue. We found out that there is 5 legal issues in this case. Number 1, whether the concept of non-deligible duty can be arised to first respondent, which is Syarikat Bekalan Air Selangor and other. Number 2, whether the contractor of Syarikat Pembinaan Benua on duty of care toward tenaga nasional berhad for the damage that occurred. Number 3, whether the Syarikat Bekalan Air Selangor, Sendirian Berhad and other had duty to ensure that another party took reasonable care in the discharge of its duty of care. Number 4, whether the defendant had intentionally, recklessly, negligently or by omission trespassed onto plaintiff property and negligently caused the damage to a part of plaintiff underground cable. Lastly, whether the defendant might inherently cause public nuisance to the public.
Alright, so moving on to the judgment. So, the judges had been decided the case where in normal negligent cases, normally the defendant will be liable with their own liability towards the plaintiff. On the other hand, it will not be implied if the case established non-delegable duty. In particular cases of negligence, the plaintiff shall prove that the defendant was responsible for the damages that suffered by her or him. Nevertheless, on the basis of non-delegable duty, the defendant cannot defend itself by stating that the contractor is an independent party. This is because the contractor is attached by a contract with Syabas itself. So, the defendant must take full responsibility by supervising the work with care. As a matter of fact, whatever action that the contractor did that might lead to damages to the plaintiff cable, the defendant also shall be liable because of the contractor's action as well. So, moving on to the next judgment. With the carelessness of the first respondent's action, they had exceeded the period of time that had been given to them to do the excavation works by Dewan Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur, which was DBKL. It has made them breach the Section 40 of the Street Drainage and Building Act 1974, where there were specific requirements and time that had been given after the permit had been obtained by them. It may be hazardous to the public because they shall do their work as likely as stated in the requirements. The circumstances that might lead to the danger to the public was one of the categories in non-delegable duty, as stated by Lord Sumption in the case of Woodland against Essex County Council. So, the decision made by the learned judges will allow the appeal by the appellant. Nevertheless, it can be seen that the first respondent literally owe a non-delegable duty to the second respondent, and they must be responsible for the second respondent's action based on the non-delegable duties concept. Okay. Alright. We'll moving on to the comment and analysis. So, based on the case given, it can be stated that the decision made by the learned judges were fair and reasonable. This is because the decision had been made thoroughly. Hence, the decision made the respondent liable for non-delegable duty was seemingly accurate as well. As stated by Lord Sumption in the case of Woodland against Essex County Council, one of the categories of non-delegable duty was the hazard that might cause public nuisance. The other cases such as Pickett against Smith, Penny against Wimbledon, Holiday against National Telephone Company and Honeywell against 10 Limited Lucky Bros, which was London's commercial photograph, had stated that hazard that may cause public nuisance was the element that established non-delegable duty. It can be seen that the respondent owe non-delegable duty and must be liable for lack of supervision in supervising their contractor. On the other hand, based on the decision made, the respondent also owe negligence to the appellant. It can be seen where one of the elements of negligence had been clearly established in this case, which was duty of care. Literally, all of the elements of duty of care which were foreseeable, proximity and fairness had been established, whereby they did not supervise the excavation made by the second respondent with care. As portrayed in the case of Lembaga Kemajuan Tanah Persekutuan, which was Felda against Mariam, it was held that Felda owed duty of care to the respondent even though they know nothing about the build of Rumah Kongsi because the subcontractor was attached under Felda's responsibility. This is because the Felda literally had a contract between them and subcontractor. As stated by Chief Justice Syabas, the duty was not derived from the contract, but one which is cast by law. Because of the danger created by him, he must take a reasonable care to ensure that visitors were not exposed to it. Lastly, it can be seen that the decisions made by them were precise because all of the elements that had been established by the respondent had been fulfilled, which made them liable and shall pay the damages to the appellant.
So lastly, conclusion. So based on the case, we can conclude that the case of Tenaga Nasional Berhad vs Syarikat Bekalan Air Selangor and other have give us a clear view of the importance to establish the concept of non-deligible duty. The determining factor were that the both appellant and the first respondent are public utilities, providing essential public service, and the excavation work were executed on public road, making such work hazardous to the public. Furthermore, we also support the decision made by the court which approved the appeal with cost in the sum of 30,000 ringgit for the payment of allocated fee. Based on the case given, it can be stated that the decision made by the judge were fair and reasonable. This is because the decision has been made truly. Hence, the decision made the respondent liable for non-deligible duty was simply accurate. So that's all from us. Thank you.